Welcome to Entrepreneurs International Network, where entrepreneurs learn, network, and grow. I'm Roger Killen, the organizer. Today, Ben Walter is going to help you grow your Canadian business with government grants. Ben, we'd like to get to know you at a personal level. So I've got 3 questions that will help us do that. Here's number 1.
Amazing.
What fun fact would you like us to know about you?
So my fun fact is that I was actually a TV host for Shaw TV for 4 years. I hosted a community television show.
What show again?
It's called Gen Y. It was a Shaw Channel 4 community television show.
Wow, never knew that. That's why you're so comfortable on camera.
Probably.
Question number 2. What item on your bucket list excites you the most?
I would have to say skydiving is an item on my bucket list that excites me the most. I am deathly afraid of heights, and I think once I can overcome that and go for a skydive journey, that'll be a big moment for me.
Oh, wow. Okay, I wish you well.
Thanks, Roger.
And the third and last question is, what is your favorite way of relaxing?
I would say my favorite way of relaxing is quite the opposite. It's getting out and being active. So getting in the mountains. I live on the West Coast here in Vancouver, and we have a ton of beautiful nature, and I love to hike and snowboard. And so that's what I would say is my favorite way to relax.
Great, good. So now we know you a little bit better. Now, participants, if you can possibly do it, please come on camera, because Ben is going to get his energy from you, and precious little energy will be had if you remain off camera. So do your best to come on camera and engage with Ben. Request number 2 is please stay muted throughout Ben's workshop and type any questions that you've got into the chat. Now, at about every 10-minute intervals, I will ask Ben for permission to aggregate your questions and ask them to Ben. Just know that by the end of Ben's talk, you will have any questions you've got answered. This workshop is going to be recorded, and you're going to be sent a link to the recording. It'll be tomorrow. But for those of you who know how to find your way to the EIN YouTube channel, it'll be on that channel within a couple of hours. Ben, are you ready to knock our socks off?
I'm ready to knock your socks off, Roger.
All right, knock our socks off for 1 hour. Take it away. The show is yours.
Amazing. So thank you everybody for joining this evening, this afternoon from all across Canada. I'm so excited to be here today to talk all about grant funding, government funding, and to share a little bit more about how you can grow your Canadian business with these government grants. I want to start off just by quickly thanking Roger for putting together this session today as my slides go blackout. I want to thank Roger for putting together this fantastic session today. And as he has already gone over the house rules, let's go ahead and get started. We've been waiting for this content, so I want to jump right in. Now, to start off today's session, I want to start with a story, right? And I want to answer this question, who is Pocketed? So we have a really good idea of why I'm here talking to you today. And so 2 years ago, I'm part of the founding team here at Pocketed, and 2 years ago, the founding team was working on a very different project. We were working on a company called Deep End Inc., and that was a company that was working on predictive hiring and retention management solutions for restaurant retail. Now, as soon as I say those 2 words, restaurant retail, I'm sure all of you are like, okay, well, 2020, restaurant retail, not a great time to be in that space. And no, it was not a great time to be in that space. We had paying customers in Canada and the US, but unfortunately, when the pandemic hit and restrictions were put in place, a lot of those customers were starting to close their doors, even some filing for bankruptcy. So it was not a great space to be in for our team and our company and the product we were building. Now, at that time, however, we were able to make the company last a lot longer than we probably should have. We made it last for about 6 months throughout the pandemic, despite the fact that our clients were closing their doors. And the reason we were able to do this was because of the power of grant funding. Now, our team has gotten very good at building businesses with grants. In the past 12 months, Pocketed has actually leveraged over $500,000, actually $750,000 in government grants to grow our team and scale our product. And right, that is real impact with real dollars, right? $750,000, and I know a few of you on the call today already said, you've secured $75,000, $100,000. Everything that you can put towards your business in terms of non-dilutive government grants is impactful for you. Now, when we spoke to our colleagues across Canada, we really uncovered 3 reoccurring struggles that they were facing as well. The first one being that locating grants is challenging, right? There are many programs out there. There are many grant administrators and many rabbit holes and loopholes that you're going to end up falling down when you begin to look for these programs. And this can be very time consuming. And as an early stage founder, as a solopreneur, as a business owner, you don't necessarily have that time to dedicate to figuring out, hey, what's out there and what's available to me. Now, the second common struggle that we uncovered was that requirements are unclear, right? So you spend all this time upfront, you invest the time to find the programs, figure out what's out there and what may be eligible to you. When you finally come across those programs, you quickly realize, wait a second, is this even eligible to me? What are the requirements for this program? What do I have to do to get to that next step? And how can I educate myself to prepare myself for a successful application? And the third piece is that support is difficult to access, right? There are a ton of programs out there. There's a ton of information out there, but we may not know where to start or where to look for that support to get us to that next step and be successful in our application process, right? There are many grant writers out there, many grant consultants, but where do we find these supportive resources? And that is why we launched Pocketed, right? Building a business is hard. One of the biggest barriers to building a business is money, and we get that. Our founding team lived this pain through the pandemic months and growing our business through grants. And so we launched Pocketed as a way to simplify access to government funding for businesses just like yours, connecting you with the eligible funds that you need to scale and the support that you need to successfully secure these funds, right? We'll talk about how this works later today in today's session. But I want you to know now that today, over 6,500 businesses across North America trust Pocketed for their government funding needs, and we are very excited to help you too. Now, I want to quickly run through the agenda for today's session so we're all very clear at what we're going to be learning and we're going to lead this session with. So first, we're going to talk about the Canadian grant basics, some basic information for those folks who are brand new to grant funding, brand new to starting their own businesses, or haven't even started their own businesses just yet. Then we're going to cover some common grant misconceptions. So some things that we hear often that just aren't true, and I need you to know about those today. Now, a bonus section and a section that we didn't talk about in the session outline in advance is we're going to talk about a few specific funding opportunities that are in the market that you may be able to take advantage of. Now, in this section, we're only going to cover a few. I know a lot of you have very specific questions about your business needs, your business goals, and the projects that you're executing. So if, of course, we don't address those today, I encourage you to follow up with us. Finally, we're going to talk about preparing to apply. So how are you going to prepare to be very successful in that application process? We're going to close out the session talking about Pocketed and the support that's available to you through our platform. But I want to start off with the question back to you, right? Have you used a grant before? Now, I know some of you already said, yes, we've used a grant before, but just with a simple yes or no, Y or N in the chat, let's see who has used a grant before, who is brand new to this process. I'm seeing a lot of no's coming in. I know there's a few of you who have applied to grants before, but I see a lot of no's, brand new. Great. Okay, so a lot of us are brand new to grant funding. Those who have secured grants in the past, there still might be some knowledge in this first section, this grant basics section, that will benefit you as you continue to search for new opportunities, right? But this is going to be very beneficial for those who are just getting started and just preparing to seek out grants for the very first time. So we're going to start today's session off with the Canadian grants landscape, an overview of what's out there, what's available to you as a business owner. Now, the first question I want to answer is, what are grants, right? So simply put, grants are a form of non-dilutive capital that helps you grow your business. Now, what does non-dilutive capital mean? This means that grants are non-equity and non-debt capital, meaning that you retain ownership of your business and you do not need to pay these funds back to any investing third party. So this is very different from traditional business loans, angel investment, venture capital investment. You do not have to pay this money back and you are not giving up any ownership in your business. And this is really fantastic when we're just getting started, if we're just bootstrapping, if we haven't quite started yet and we're thinking about how can we get these early stage funds into our business without giving up this ownership. grants are a great way to do this, right? And this will be critical as you continue to grow and scale, and then eventually seek out angel investment, VC funding, and business loans. Having more ownership over your business is going to be impactful in that process and allow you to retain more control and direction in what you're doing with your operations. And the second question that I want to talk about is, how does grant funding work, right? So we know that grant funding is non-dilutive capital. So that means non-debt, non-equity capital for your business. But how does it work, right? What does that process look like? So I want you to know that grants are earned capital, which cover future project costs. So unlike tax credits, which are going to be a reimbursement on expenses that you've incurred in the past, grants are going to be applied for and earned in advance of the projects that you're executing. Now, these grants are going to be able to cover between 50% to 100% of your project expenses. And this is, of course, dependent on the program. We already outlined and started today's session off by saying there are a lot of programs out there, right? In Pocketed's database, we have over 1,000 opportunities for businesses to explore. And not all of them will cover 100%. Not all of them will cover 50%. Some will cover a range within that, right? But you should know that grants are earned for future projects. Now, what does that process look like? So you're going to identify a project in your organization that you need funding for. Next, you're going to curate your application for a program that covers those project expenses. Then you'll be approved for that application process and for the grant funding, and you'll begin to execute your project. Now, an important note to make here, and why I have cash up front written on the slide, is that you will actually need cash on hand today to begin to execute your project, and you'll be reimbursed at a later point in time. So if that makes you a little bit hesitant and you're thinking, well, I don't have that cash on hand today, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But as you're progressing in your project timeline, you'll begin to submit documentation on the expenses that you're incurring, whether that be for hiring, training, these types of programs, and you'll begin to be reimbursed for the funds that you've expended. That is the basic outline of how grant funding works and how you would approach it for the first time.
Ben, your question?
Please, Roger, yes.
Question from Kim. Most grants are matching. Are there any grants that will consider the owner's contributed equity and or the current business assets?
Yeah, Kim, that's a great question, and a question that we can unpack in a few different ways. So yes, you are right. A lot of grants are going to be matching. So they will need the founder or the business owner to contribute X amount of dollars, whether it be 50% matching, 75% matching to that project expenditure. There are some programs which do not require any matching, and I'll talk about one of those today. Now, in terms of considerations for the owner's current business assets, equity, typically these grant programs which are matching will not dive too in depth into these opportunities. There are sometimes a few that will consider that, but this is going to be a consideration for you as a business owner as you're approaching that process.
Question from Sonal. Can an approved business loan be considered as matching capital?
Yes, that's exactly right, Sonal. So when I talk about grant-based financing later, you can actually access loans to help pay for that matching capital, or just the money that you don't have on hand today that you need to begin utilizing those grants.
No further questions. Back to you.
Perfect. So as I was saying, I want to hop into a little bit about what projects can I fund, right? Because I said the first step is identifying what projects in your business do you need funding for. So there are 4 core categories of grant funding, and you can see these on the screen here, right? So we've got research and development, hiring, training, and market expansion.
Ben, your slides are not advancing.
We should just be on the same slide here that says, what projects can I fund?
That's correct.
Yep, that's the slide we should be on.
Okay, that's the one we're on.
Yep. So the special 5th category that's been around for the past 2 years has been COVID-19 recovery funding. Now, a lot of us know that these programs are closing out now, but a few are still lingering in the funding that you can take advantage of. Now, the 4 core categories, R&D, hiring, training, and market expansion, those are here to stay. And this is always one of my early stage #1 tips for founders who are just getting started with grants. When you're trying to reduce that search process, right, and Pocketed will help you reduce that search process. But when you're looking for grants for your business, I want you to think about the projects that you're executing in the next 3 to 6 to 12 months, right? What does that look like? Are you looking to expand your team, hire your first employee? Well, of course, you're going to be wanting to look at hiring programs. Are you looking to expand to a new market, right? Are you looking to expand, south of the border into the United States? Well, in that case, you're going to want to look at market expansion. Now, of course, there are smaller projects like, IP patents, these types of things that will fall in subcategories. But the 4 core categories are a really great way to begin your grant search and to reduce that time spent on looking at all of the programs when you could be looking at a select category of just a few programs that are more applicable to you. Now, the next question I want to answer in terms of grant funding basics is how much funding is available, right? What is out there? What is available to you to leverage? And the answer to this is $5.9 billion is available in government money annually. And the nice thing is this is actually fluctuates depending on the budgets that are announced provincially, federally, municipally. This number can change, but as a general rule of thumb, I like to talk about $5.9 billion as the number or the numerical number of government funds that are available to you, right? So about $2.9 billion of this comes in the form of grant funding. An additional $3 billion comes in the form of tax credits. And of course, both fall in the category of non-dilutive funding. Now, I see Ronnie commented in the chat, I'll take it. Yes, wouldn't it be fantastic if we could take it all? Now, of course, you're not going to be able to use all $5.9 billion for your own individual business. But like we have done here at Pocketed and like many of our users have done as well, you can take advantage of a hefty chunk of it, right? Anywhere between $25,000 to $750,000 to over $1 million from one program alone. So a lot of different opportunities that you can take advantage of and definitely a lot of funding out there that you can tap into if you've got these projects that you need some support with in your business. Now I want to hop into some grant myths, right? Here at Pocketed, we're the grant experts. And so we hear a lot of things from our users where they ask us a question and we're like, you know what? No, that's a pretty common myth. That's a common question that we get from a lot of folks that are brand new to grant funding. And we want to address some of those today so that you're set up for success. And the first myth that we hear far too often is that grants have too many strings attached. I feel like a puppet. I've got to report to this person and that person. In reality, yes, grants do have some reporting requirements. They can be cumbersome, but as a general rule of thumb, they are very, very flexible in comparison to funding opportunities like loans and VC funding and angel funding, where you have these third parties who are keeping an eye on the way that you're spending their money and expecting a return on capital, right? Grants are flexible in the sense that you choose the projects that you're working on, right? Now, of course, you have to stay within those boundaries, but you get to choose that before you seek out the funding. You're not held accountable by investing third parties who are expecting that return on their capital. And you're also not actually obligated to spend all or any of the grant funding that you secured if you can't find an applicable use within your organization, right? So if we're looking at grants in comparison to other available opportunities to fund our businesses, these are very, very low impact in terms of the promises that we have to make to others and the stress that we have to take on and as a business owner to utilize this funding. Now, the second grant myth that we hear a lot is that if I'm not in tech, there are no grants for me. Now, this is a fair assumption. A lot of people look out and they look at the grant funding landscape and they say, hey, all this tech is for, or all this funding, sorry, is for technical businesses. I'm not a technical business. I don't think there's going to be funding out there for me. Now, this is completely false. There is a ton of funding in the market for folks in the art space, for folks in the agriculture space, for folks in the media space. There are funding programs out there for you. Now, the other thing is a lot of the funding that at surface level looks like funding for technical businesses can actually be utilized by non-tech businesses. So the classic example that I talk about is how we at Pocketed helped a taco food truck, an independent taco food truck here on the West Coast in Vancouver, secure a technical grant to pay for a developer for their company. Now, that seems absurd if you look at it at surface level, but the way that you can actually leverage technical funding for a non-technical business is, of course, if we're working on technical projects. And this is why I always talk about identify the projects that you're working on, right? So as a traditional small business, as an independent taco food truck, you can actually take advantage of some digital technical funding if it's for something like hiring a digital marketing intern or hiring a developer to build your website. These types of things can be funded by technical funding, even if you're not a technical business, which is a really, really great thing to know if you're just getting started.
Question, can you take advantage of multiple programs at the same time?
Yes, so that's a great question, Brett. And I have the chat open here as well. And I see that we've got some folks chiming in here, which is great. So Haley has it, spot on. My general rule of thumb is that if you're taking advantage of grant funding from different levels, so there's federal, provincial, municipal, private, you can be pretty safe to assume that you can leverage more than one program at one time. Now, the other nice thing is that a lot of programs, if they are not, eligible to be stacked with others, will explicitly tell you in their program requirements, and we'll list that in Pocket, and I'll show you more about that today. So if there's ever any hesitation, of course, you can reach out to our team and our supportive resources so that we can talk more about that for the specific programs. But yes, grants can be stacked together to cover a total greater project cost.
No further questions.
I have a quick question if possible.
Okay. Do you want to type it into the chat, Moose?
Great. So we'll wait on that, Moose. We'll type it into the chat and then we can address it in a moment. In the time being, we're going to talk about our last grant myth, which is that if I don't have cash today, I can't use grants. So when we were talking about the structure of grants, right? How do I approach grants? What does that process look like? I said, you'll need cash today to pay for those projects and you'll be reimbursed at a later point in time. Now, of course, this is not necessarily realistic for all early stage founders or solopreneurs who are just getting started and are bootstrapping their businesses. The way that you can work around this is through grant-based financing. So we actually have a number of partners across Canada, Bonsai Growth, OKR Financial, and these folks can provide you a grant-based loan, can help tie you over to when you're going to begin receiving those reimbursements. So they're very small loans, focused and centralized on grants. These companies understand that you're utilizing the funding for grants, and so the terms around that will be centralized on that grant funding. So no, you don't necessarily have to have cash today to utilize these grants, but of course you will have to be open to working with folks like OKR Financial, Bonsai, these lenders that can help you with that. Now, of course, some of the other grants that you may not need cash for are some of those 100% coverage grants, but those are limited in availability. Roger, do you want to ask that question from Moose now, or are we okay to move?
There's a few of them. I was going to wait, but let's just do it now. Does the funding for hiring a tech person have to be for a staff member, or can it be for a contractor?
Yeah, Jennifer, that is a fantastic question. So for most hiring opportunities in Canada, these will have to be a staff member, so they'll have to be payroll at your company.
Okay. Does a company have to be incorporated?
Not always. A lot of programs will require incorporation, but there are some select programs that do not require incorporation, just registration of your business. And those are two different things.
Writing grants is a huge problem. A lot of us don't know how to write grants.
Moose, we're going to get to that in a little bit.
I hear you. No problem. Thanks.
Are there any industries or types of businesses that would typically not qualify for government grants?
So Don, I actually want to counter your question with the question that I have on the screen here right now. And it is, when is the right time to apply for grants? Now, I know that we have a lot of folks asking questions in the chat, so I'm going to refrain from asking you to post in the chat again, Roger. My apologies for earlier, the yes, no. We'll keep it to just questions in the chat. I'm going to answer this question, and I'm going to say, if you need funding, it is time to seek out and explore what grants may be available to you. So it does not matter whether your company is pre-revenue to Series D, it does not matter the industry that you operate in. The key focus that you should be thinking about is, what projects do I have in my business, and is there going to be a grant that can fit those? So in terms of industries, right? Pocketed, I always say we're industry agnostic. We welcome all folks, all different businesses to our platform to explore what grants are available to them, because there are, yes, industry specific opportunities, but there are also general opportunities which are more project based. So I always say, if you need funding, it's time to explore what is out there and may be available and eligible to you.
Question, this is very general, what are application requirements? How long does application prep take? How long does the processing take?
Yeah, so Mortez Zabi, to answer your question about application requirements, this is very much program dependent. So some programs are very fast. You can apply and be approved within a matter of 48 hours. Other programs take much longer, up to 6 months sometimes to get that approval. Now, again, application requirements will vary depending on the type of grant you're applying to. It could be basic info like business details, CRA, business number, company description, and larger, market expansion R&D may require you to, put together a budget proposal and market expansion plan. So hard to just give you one straight answer. It does vary depending on the program that you're looking at.
I'm not ready to apply for a grant as I don't have a registered business yet and do not have a business plan either. I'm still developing my prototype, but I need all my funds available to build my prototype. What options are available? Related question, is there funding available for developing a prototype?
Yes, definitely. So great questions. And I meant to mention this on our agenda today. I know that a lot of folks have very, very specific questions about the projects that you're working on in your business. And I encourage you to ask these today to make sure that we can get through all of our content. What I would also say is we're going to provide the sign up link for Pocket at the end, as well as our contact details. And we'll be able to talk more specifically about your opportunities. But Kim did put a good opportunity there. IRAP is an excellent source, yes, for prototype development funds. There are also some other programs around IP patents, as well as Mind Tax is a good one in the R&D space that you can work with some postdoctorates and post-secondary institutions to work on these types of projects. So a lot of opportunities out there in the R&D field. That's what I would look at. Grants are the R&D classification.
Okay, later I'm sure you're going to be talking about the cost of pocketed services.
I will definitely do that, Roger.
Hey, Sanjeev, I would like a small scale company to move from USA to Canada as a joint partnership. Is there funding available for a facility, a merger, etc.?
Yeah, so Sanjeev, great question. And as I said, and Roger, I hope this is okay with you, with some of these very specific questions for specific businesses, I'd like to do follow-ups after the call today, just so we can ensure that we can get through content, because I know a lot of folks have very specific questions about their individual businesses, but there would definitely be funds to help you expand into the US and work with some additional folks that already have businesses in place in that new market. So we can talk more about that offline. But I want to make sure that the info that we're giving today is general enough and applicable to all folks. So thank you for that question, and we can definitely follow up.
Ben, would you like to manage the questions yourself? They're coming in the chat, but some of them are very, very specific.
Yeah, Roger, I have the chat up. So if we want to continue going like that, maybe every 10 minutes, you can just stop me and I'll take a look.
Okay, so I'm going to assume you're going to look at the questions in the chat and answer those that you can.
Yeah, that's great.
If not answered them, it's because they're way too specific, and you and Ben need to have a one-on-one call. Okay, over to you, Ben.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to hop into some specific funding opportunities now, folks. And I picked 3 today, which are somewhat general, somewhat broad, and could be applicable to a lot of your businesses. And so I want to highlight these programs now so they can be on your mind and you can be thinking about them as you continue to scale your business and grow your operations. Now, I will note a few of these are not, well, at least one of them is not open right now, so it'll be a later thought. The nice thing about grants is they're cyclical, so they'll open and close throughout the year. So the first one I wanted to highlight for everyone here today is the DS for Y, or the Digital Skills for Youth opportunity, and this is provided by multiple providers in Canada. Now, application deadlines do vary for this program. Right now, the program is full, but it will be opening again in a few months' time. Now, this is a hiring opportunity, right? These are funds for hiring, $32,000, designed to provide meaningful digital career development and technical skills training for youth in Canada. So when we're talking about youth in Canada, we're talking about that group is under 30 recent graduates from post-secondary institutions that are looking to start their career and develop their career in the technical space. Now, this is a really excellent funding program because it actually will cover 100% of salary expenses, as well as eligible mandatory employment-related costs, such as CPP and others along those lines, right? Now, in addition to this, the program actually offers $4,000 for training expenses. So not only are you able to cover the salary expenses and the eligible mandatory employment-related costs for that new hire, but you're also able to get them some additional training to make sure they're really developing in your organization and providing the most value to you as a business owner, as a founder. The program, as I said, is currently at capacity, but will open again. And this is also a neat one that sometimes retroactively funds. So if you brought on a hire in the fall, you could potentially get some funding for that as well. So Digital Skills for Youth, DS for Y. If you're looking for hiring, keep an eye on this one. Now, the second program that we're going to look at here today is in the expansion grants category. This is the Can Export SMEs program, and this offers up to $50,000 at a 50% coverage. So the first one we looked at, DS4Y, is 100% coverage. This program is a 50% coverage, up to $50,000 for relevant expenses when you are expanding to a new market. So this is for small and medium-sized enterprises registered in Canada, and is for international business development activities. So what does that mean, right? What are international business development activities? Market research, travel, marketing expenses. These are the types of things that you can actually fund through the Can Export SMEs program, as long as you fit their eligibility requirements. Now, I'll talk about those eligibility requirements today, since the Can Export program is open right now, and some of you may be interested in exploring it. So this is going to be for a for-profit business, an incorporated business, an LLP, or a cooperative business. You have a CRA business number, fewer than 500 full-time employees, and between $100,000 and $100 million in annual revenue. So you have to meet that minimum threshold of $100,000. If you do fit that threshold, as well as the rest of the eligibility requirements, then this could be a viable opportunity for you to explore if you are looking to expand to a new international market. So Can Export SMEs, keep that in mind. Now, the final one we're going to highlight today is actually an R&D tax credit, so for research and development, and this is the SHRED tax credit program, or the Scientific Research and Experimental Design program. This is a great opportunity for those of you who are engaged in R&D here in Canada, including applied research, basic research, and development. You can actually recuperate up to 35% of eligible expenses through this program. Now, one of the really cool things that I talked about with SHRED is you can actually get funds back for salary expenses. So let's say you had a developer or a team of developers in your organization working on a unique product, a new product in the market. You can actually cover or get back up to 35% of their salaries, as long as you are eligible for this program. Now, this is it has an ongoing submission deadline. So of course you can submit throughout the year. We have some great relationships with some SHRED tax credit consultants. So if you have more questions about this, we would be happy to engage you with them and make that introduction. So the three programs I covered today, just a quick glance back, we've got the Digital Skills for Youth, which is a hiring opportunity. We've got the Can Export SMEs program, which is a market expansion opportunity. And then we've got the SHRED program, which is an R&D tax credit opportunity. So we kind of looked at one at each category. These may be applicable to you. And of course, we encourage you to explore them further through the Pocket platform. Now, I'm going to take a pause and look into the chat for any questions that may have popped up. Yes, we've got some great contributions from Kim here about my tax. Thank you so much. Michael, are your follow-ups free of charge? Yes, so if you connect with me via email, I'm happy to do a quick follow-up with you via email at no charge. Great, and then we've got some more here. Basically people saying to go on and on. Yeah, fantastic. So it looks like we've got some good contributions from the audience, and not any major questions right now. Okay, great. Jeanette does have a question. Would that grant, DS4Y, cover hiring people for social media management, for example, or does it only have to be technical skills, i.e. programming? So Jeanette, you could hire a digital marketing coordinator or something like that with the Digital Skills for Youth program from time to time. So as I said, these open cyclically and they'll open throughout the year. Sometimes requirements and eligibility requirements do change slightly, but actually, yes, you could have social media management as a role activity, maybe not the only role activity. You want to position it as more of a broader technical role, working on maybe some things like SEO and stuff like that. But yes, social media management could be a role activity that could be covered under Digital Skills for Youth. Don's got a question. Of the $5.9 billion that is available, how much would you say is actually granted on a yearly basis? This is actually a really great question, Don. So we always say that grant funding, there is grant funding and money being left on the table. And when we talk with our government partners that are administering these funds, they always say, we're trying to get these funds on the market, and it is hard, right? It is hard to put these funds in front of business founders. Now, we don't have an exact figure of how much is left on the table. Of course, also the $5.9 billion figure is a fluctuating figure year to year. But we do know that founders are leaving funds on the table, and founders that could be utilizing them are not always utilizing them. So that's why I always say, check out what is available to you. And again, we will have a recording of the session. And Francis, where do I apply? We're gonna get to that right after this section here. which is my guide to securing funds. So I have some tips for you when you're just getting started with the application process. My first tip is to, of course, prepare your organization. Have information ready, have the information that you need to have on hand ready so that you can expedite this process and not spend too long trying to figure out, hey, how am I actually going to get started with this application? So the first thing is, of course, basic business info. Now, what is that basic business info? So here on the screen here, I have a number of the common things that you will need on hand in any grant application, whether it's for hiring, market expansion, research and development. You are always going to need details like these when you're getting started with your application process. So business number, right? Our CRA business number, very basic. Company description, company address, contact info, incorporation date or registration date. You will always need these details. These are very basic details, but of course, as you grow, you scale, you team, you have other folks working on these grants for you, you're going to want to have these centralized. So I always recommend have your basic business info on hand, have it in a centralized grant application document, right? This is going to make it easy for you as you move forward, as you apply to more grants. You can centralize notes, right? You have the centralized document, you have the basic business info, and then you contribute more things, right? As you submit grants, you put those write-ups in that document for yourself. It is going to only get easier for you as you continue to look for new applications, new grant funding opportunities that you can take advantage of. So those are my 2 tips in terms of preparing your organization. Collect that basic business info, make sure you have it on hand, and create a centralized business document that you can store that info in, as well as additional notes as you continue to move through that application process and apply for more and more grants. Now, my second tip here is about positioning your organization, right? Navigating the tricky requirements that are out there that you need to know about as you are applying for these programs. So the first is eligibility, right? Recognizing which programs am I eligible for, and then of course, which projects are eligible for these programs. Now, of course, there are a ton of different things that go into eligibility for projects. The basic business info is a good place to start. There are other things like company size, annual revenue that will indicate which programs you're eligible for. Now, I always say, Pocketed will help you navigate these eligibility requirements. And we're going to take a look at that in just a second. But when you're trying to position your organization to make sure that you're meeting those eligibility requirements, take a really deep look at those requirements for the application process. It's going to outline, these are the things that you need in your business to be able to apply to this. These are the things that you need in the role or the project in order to apply for this funding. We don't want to spend a ton of time, applying to a program that we're not going to be able to take advantage of as a busy business owner. So make sure you really are taking that time up front to evaluate the eligibility criteria and make sure that your business fits that. Now, the other piece to positioning your organization is, of course, that role versus organization piece. This is what we were talking earlier today in terms of the projects that you're looking to fund, right? So you may not be a technical business, but you may have a technical project that you can fund through technical funding. So positioning ourselves in terms of the role versus the organization and having that mindset as we're going into the grant funding opportunities that are out there and available to us is very important to ensuring your success and improving your success in the grant funding application procedure. So 2 big recommendations, right? Preparing your organization, have that information ready, have that centralized document, build on that document as you move through that process. And the second piece, position your organization to be successful regarding eligibility as well as role versus organization requirements. Now I'm going to take a pause and go back to the chat and address some questions. And then we're going to hop into Pocketed as a platform, and we're going to look at how you can address everything that we've spoken about today in terms of finding programs that work for you, applying to those programs, and accessing the support if you're not able to apply on your own. So this is what we're all waiting for, the really useful tool that is Pocketed. So we got a couple questions here. So Ken, some great feedback from Ken, who applied for SHRED, good for research and development, especially in digital technology. Yes, Ken, you're totally right. Jeanette, what about non-government sources of funds? Grants, bursaries, or question mark? Are there places to look for these sources of private, non-loan investment capital? So Jeanette, to answer your question, on Pocketed in our database, I said we have over 1,000 opportunities for you to explore. This includes both government funding and private level non-dilutive funds. So private level grants, private level business competitions, those things that will still, allow you to retain your equity, hold in your company, allow you to retain that share. as well as these funds that do not require you to pay them back. Those are also accessible through Pocketed, which is really fantastic. You can just find all of those in one place. Great. And then I've also got, so Kickstarter as well. Yes, of course, there are many ways that you can fund your business. Today, of course, we're talking about grant funding, but of course, Kickstarter for crowdfunding, you've got business loans, all these types of ways that you can, of course, access funding for your business. Now, what I want to do now, and I know there have been a lot of questions about, okay, great, where can I access these programs? How am I going to reduce that search time? How am I going to be more successful in securing these funding opportunities for my business? And that is where Pocketed steps in and where we can help you secure these funds. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat right now. And this is going to be a sign up for our platform, but what we're actually going to do is hop right into the platform so I can show you what we're all about and how you can utilize Pocketed to find grants that work for you and to apply for those grants that work for you as well. So that's the code there. I'll explain a little bit about that referral code EIN in a minute. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my screen share and we're going to hop right into the Pocketed platform. So you want to find these grants. You don't want to spend a ton of time searching through all of the different grant administrators, all the different programs that are out there. You want to expedite the process and get expert support. Where you're going to want to start is with Pocketed. Now, when you come to Pocketed, it is completely free to sign up. So the link that I posted in the chat will bring you to our create an account page, and there is no cost to create your Pocketed account. What that will require you to do is first fill in your business name or your company name, additionally with your email and your referral code, which is that EIN referral code, which is automatically applied. That is all it takes to set up, on day one, your Pocketed account. Now, upon first login, what we're going to see is an opportunity to build our business profile. So this is going to be a profile of our company, the basic business details that we spoke about already today, as well as some additional details. They're going to help our platform match you with eligible funds for your business. So Pocketed is taking away that step one process of having to go out and find what's out there. What are the grant programs that are available to me? What are the non-dilutive government programs that are out there and available to businesses like mine? So when I create my account, I'm going to come in and build this business profile and fill in all these fields. So we've got things like company name, company website, phone number, in which country do you operate in which province do you operate in, business type. These are all going to be very important, and they will allow our backend algorithm to match you with eligible funds for your business specifically. Now, once we finish this and we sign into Pocketed, there are a few things that we're going to be able to do. This is our welcome dashboard, and we can see right away, we can explore our grant matches, we can talk to an advisor, or we can apply for grant-based finance. Now, explore our grant matches is going to take us right to that list of eligible funds for our business, right? We want to seek out these funds. We spoke all about it today in terms of the types of funds that are out there, some specific funds that are out there, as well as how much funding is out there. We're going to be able to see all of this within our Pocketed account, and we're going to be able to see what's eligible to us within our Pocketed account. Now, the second piece here is, of course, talking to an advisor. So if you need a little bit of extra one-on-one hands-on support, that is where you are going to want to visit. And finally, apply for grant-based financing. This is what we spoke about earlier today. If you don't have that cash on hand to actually take advantage of these grants, then of course, you can pop right into that grant-based financing link, and we'll get you in touch with a lender who can help you with that. So we're in Pocketed. We have our business profile set up. Where do we go? We're going to want to go straight to Explore Grants, which is going to take us to our grants dashboard. And right away, I can see all of the grant programs or the non-dilutive government funding programs that I have matched with as an individual business owner. So the really cool thing about this page is it's going to look a little bit different for each and every one of you. Everybody who creates their own free Pocketed account is going to get a slightly different list of funding opportunities that you are eligible to apply for. So I can see right up here, based on my business profile, I've matched with 209 funding opportunities, right? Super exciting. That's still a lot to work through. And we're going to talk about how you can work through that within Pocketed. Now, the neat thing is that most of you are likely going to get a little bit less than that. On average, our users connect with between 100 to 150 programs. The reason why I have so many is because I've built a very broad and general business profile that covers operations in Ontario, British Columbia, Alberta, and I've put in some specific founder demographics that are going to open me up to more opportunities. So 209 programs. How do we filter that down? How do we find what's right for me today? So the first opportunity that we can use to narrow down this list is, of course, our search filter. So we spoke about Shred today. If I search specifically for Shred, if I've matched with that program, it will show up. So we spoke about Shred. I'm popping into my Pocketed account. Let's see if I matched with it. Yes, I have. So I can go right in and I can see, great, I matched with Shred. I can find out more information about that. So what does the program look like? What are the eligibility requirements? What is the deadline? So when is this going to be open until? And some other neat things like how long is this going to take? Or I can share it with a colleague or a founder from another company. So really great, all that information that you need to feel comfortable to move ahead. Now, if we don't know what we want to search for, and of course, 209 matches, we only spoke about 3 programs today. Of course, that is not that entire list. We have our capabilities just up across the top here. And I'm sorry, my AirPods have died. And so I'm going to be on my computer mic now. And if we have any audio issues, just let me know, but we're going to just continue ahead with this. So, please go ahead, Roger.
Your computer audio is actually much better than your earbuds.
Well, there we go. It's a win-win. We lost the AirPods audio, but we're on computer audio and it's better. So thanks, Roger. Thanks for clarifying that. Now, across the top here, we've got our filtering capabilities. So a few things that we can do if we don't know what exactly to search for. So across the top, a few things. First, we can sort by all grants or new grants. Then, of course, we can sort by funding amount. So list the highest in terms of dollar amount they're looking at. Then we can filter down by application length and open grants. Now, I want to make a note here. In Pocketed, we show you grants that are both open today and are also closed, but we will be reopening at a later date. And there is an intentional and specific reason why we do this. I've mentioned today that grants are cyclical, right? They will close, they will open again. And we want you as a business owner and somebody who is seeking out grant funding to be aware of all of the programs that you're eligible for, whether they're open or not. Now, of course, if you're looking for opportunities today, you're going to want to filter by open grants. But if you're just seeking out, first time looking at grants and you're trying to figure out what's out there, what is everything that I'm eligible and available to apply for, then of course we want you to see those programs that are closed now, like Digital Skills for Youth, like some of the other programs on the platform, so that you can begin to prepare in advance and you can be ready when they do open up at a later date. Now, the All Filters tab will allow us to really narrow down this list of 209, depending on the projects we're working on, right? My number one tip for those who are just getting started with grants is to think about the programs that you are the projects that you are working on or hoping to work on in your business. And this is where we'll be able to filter by that. So grant type in the All Filters tab, we've got 5 options: hiring, market expansion, research and development, training, and COVID-19. Of course, these are the 4 core categories of grants that we spoke about earlier today. And this is going to greatly reduce the list of matches that you have. So let's say I'm interested in market expansion funding. I click on this filter and we're taken right down from 209 to 72 opportunities. That greatly expedites my process, my search process, right? I'm trying to find what's applicable to my business, but also what's applicable to the projects I'm executing, and that is going to reduce that down. And we've got additional filters beyond this, including funding type, project activities, and these will change depending on the filter that I choose up here. I'll talk a little bit more about these in a second, but we're just going to close this for now. And I'm going to check out the chat to see if we have any questions. Great. So Anthony, is Pocketed a new business or is it a spin-off of another former grant funding company? So no, Anthony, this is a brand new business. We launched operations at the beginning of last year, so in early 2021. And we actually, the really cool thing is we partner with a lot of the existing grant funding organizations here in Canada. So if you are familiar with some of the grant funding consultancies or the grant writers in Canada, like Aiming or other folks, like some of the private level ones, like DTI is a pretty prominent grant writer here in Canada, we actually partner with them to make sure that you're still able to access that support. So we can talk a little bit more about that, but to answer your business, no, we're a new business, or sorry, to answer your question, we're a new business, not a spinoff of an older business. And Fran asked, is there a fee to join? Fran, to clarify, no, it is free to join Pocketed. So the link that I posted in the chat, and I'll post it again once we hop off the platform, that'll take you to create your own free account. Charlotte has a question. Ben, your platform looks fantastic. Will you guys be at Collision Conference in June? Yes, we will. Charlotte, I hope we will see you there. I'm not going to be able to attend, but our founder, Brianna, will be there, as well as a few folks from our team. Jamie is our director of partnerships, and Ryan is our product manager. So you can connect with those folks there and learn a little bit more about Pocketed in our story. Eric asks, Ben, do you also work with nonprofit organizations? Eric, yes, we welcome businesses from the for-profit sector as well as the nonprofit sector to our platform to explore funding opportunities. Great. So hopping back into the Pocketed platform, we've covered almost everything on the screen here, except for these 3 key buttons, which are very important. So the first one here is the apply button. Now, as we just clarified with Fran, it is free to sign up for Pocketed. It is free to get these matches and explore and filter for opportunities that fit your business. Now, the apply button will take you to that third-party application portal, and there is no cost associated with this. So you can truly leverage Pocketed as a completely free resource as long as you have the time and capacity to search through your matches and then apply on your own. So if you do that, all it would look like is clicking on this apply button on any single one of these programs, and that'll take you to that application portal. Now, if you don't have the time, if you don't have the capacity, if you don't feel like you have the skill set or the knowledge to apply to these programs on your own, that is where Pocketed can help. So right beside this, you'll see we have our Hire a Grant Writer button. That is exactly as it sounds. This is where you can actually connect with a certified professional or professional in Canada who can write the application for you or work on that application with you. So in this situation, you do not have to worry about putting together that application on your own. All of that stuff that we spoke about today in terms of the application basics, those things that you need on hand, you don't have to worry about that because instead the grant writer will worry about that for you. Now, I haven't looked at the chat just yet, but I assume there will be some questions about the fees that are associated with these grant writers. And so I'll talk about that right now. There are 3 typical fee structures that Canadian grant writers work on. Now, the first one is an hourly fee. Typically, we're seeing anything in the realm of $30 to $100 an hour, depending on the grant writer, depending on the team or the individual. We've also got flat rate fees. So something like the Can Export program, which is a $50,000 program, we see flat rate fees around $5,000 to $6,000. And both of these, you're going to be locked in to pay these regardless of success. Now, the third fee structure, and this is the one that typically gets our users excited, is the conditional success-based fee. And this is a commission fee, so a percentage of the grant funding that you use, but you only pay if the grant writer is successful in securing you these funds. So this is obviously fantastic for business owners who are cash strapped, don't necessarily want to invest, the money today if they're not going to be able to even use these grant funds. This allows you to engage with a grant writer, write that program, and then only if you're successful in securing these funds, then you'll pay that commission fee. So that's the most popular fee structure. And the nice thing is Pocketed's in-house grant writers only work on that fee structure. So if you're reaching out to us, we'll always let you know for the program that you're looking to get support on, we'll let you know what the fee structure is going to look like on that specific program. Great. Now I have a few more questions that I've received in our private messaging, and I know that also we had some questions in the kind of advanced, what are you looking to get out of this session? And I want to address that. So we looked at the free version of Pocketed. There are 2 more paid services that you can utilize. The first one being Pocketed Plus. So this is going to be an upgraded version of the platform, and there are a few things you get out of that. You're going to get advanced filtering. You're going to get some perks from some of our partners. And then you're going to be able to take advantage of grant alerts and grant consultants. So for those who want a little bit more power, a little bit more energy out of Pocketed, really want the best tool that's out there for them, this is available to you. The pricing for this is $15 a month billed annually. So it's going to be about $180 a month. The great thing is, since you're attending this session and you know the fantastic individual who is Roger Killen, you're going to get a discount on Pocketed Plus. So when you sign up through that link that I provided, you're going to get 25% off upgrades to this. Now, the other option for those who are looking for a little bit more support is going to be the managed solution. And so if you want to just offboard some of that work, you want, Pocketed grant writers to take a look at the opportunities for you. You can learn a little bit more on the platform after you sign up for free, but this is going to be a way for our team to apply to those programs on your behalf without you having to worry too much about it. The only fees associated with this one are going to be those conditional success-based fees. And again, Roger's going to hook it up with the discounts. You're going to get a 50% discount on the first grant that you utilize through our managed solution. So this is Pocketed, free to sign up, free to access these grant funding opportunities. These are all of the grant funding opportunities that are available in Canada. The only reason you wouldn't see any is if your business does not match with them. So if you're not eligible, which is nice because you don't have to worry about programs that you aren't eligible that you're taking a look at. And this is how you can access those funds that we talked all about today to grow and scale your business. Now I'm going to pop back to the slide deck really quickly, and we're just going to wrap up our presentation today, and I'll address any final questions that are left in the chat. So I am going to one more time drop the link to sign up for Pocketed in the chat today. We'll also hopefully send it out in a follow-up. But I encourage you to create a free account there. As I said, when you use the link in the chat now, you will get 25% off upgrades to Pocketed Plus and 50% off the first grant that you get grant writing support on through our managed solution. So make sure to use that link. Roger worked hard to put together this session, and so I want to make sure you're able to take advantage of those benefits. Now, the last thing I want to do today before we wrap up with the last questions in the chat is to highlight our fantastic ADA. Just to give you a sense of what can be done through Pocketed. Ada signed up to Pocketed at the end of last summer. She was familiar with the grant funding opportunities here in Canada, but was looking for some new opportunities. And within the first, I believe it was 60 days that she was using Pocketed, she was able to secure $112,000 to help her expand her team and bring on some qualified individuals on her marketing team. So the impact is real. If you're a small business owner, if you're a solopreneur, if you are a startup founder, we encourage you to explore the funding that is available to you, and you can do this through Pocketed for no cost. So thank you all for listening to my presentation today. I'm going to open up the chat and see if we have any additional questions from you lovely folks. Great. So we've got some thank yous to myself and Roger, of course. Roger, I want to thank you as well for allowing me to come here and talk about grant funding today. Michelle asks, do we have an affiliate program? So Michelle, that's a great question. I'm actually the partnerships program manager here at Pocketed. We work with 160 organizations across Canada to make sure that we're getting Pocketed into the hands of business owners like yourself. Right now, we don't have an affiliate program, although we do have a partnerships program. So if you're interested in chatting a little bit more about that, my email is on the slide here. It is ben@hellopocketed.io, and I'd be happy to entertain a conversation with you about how we can get Pocketed out in your community as well. Brian, I believe I submitted my company info for the managed solution, but I haven't heard anything yet. What is the process? Great question, Brian. So once you sign up for the managed solution, you opt in for that. You should hear from us within the first 7 days with a grant funding opportunity. Now, if you haven't heard from us just yet, what I can do is if you drop your link or if you drop your email to me directly, I can follow up on your account and see if there was maybe an issue in that. We've also encountered sometimes that folks do get that first initial outreach email in their junk inbox. So you may just want to check your junk inbox in the case that it landed there. Haley, how often does Pocketed update grants? This is a really fantastic question, and I'm glad that it got brought up today. So the way that we keep our database up to date, we do this in 3 ways. So one, we have a dedicated database team. This is real humans who are working every day to update the information that is within the platform, find new information, and of course, update existing information as well. The second way is that they're actually supported by tech. So we have tech built, including web scrapers and these types of things that every day are automatically pulling in new information so that the grants can be the most up-to-date and relevant for you. And of course, the final way that we do it is that we actually have direct relationships with grant administrators. So we have direct relationships with folks at MyTax, with folks at Tech Nation. And so we're able to get the most up-to-date information from them. And the best example I have of this is at the end of last year, MyTax was running a special promotion, 75% coverage in comparison to 50% coverage. They told us first, and we were able to let Pocketed users know that, hey, this increased coverage is available to you, which obviously was very impactful for a lot of our users that were able to take advantage of that. Awesome. So I believe that wraps up all of the chat questions. And I know we're just approaching time here. So I just want to end off today by saying thank you all for attending today's session, educating yourselves about the non-dilutive government funds that are available to you here in Canada. Really, really excited to see you all on the Pocketed platform so we can help support you in your funding needs, specifically your grant funding needs. And finally, again, Roger, thank you for being such a fantastic partner and allowing me to come in here today and talk all about grant funding and also Pocketed.
Ben, you have done the impossible. You've covered 5 billion in available grants. I imagine that's thousands of grants. You've made a very complicated, overwhelmingly distasteful program relatively simple. I'm becoming more and more familiar with your site. Initially, it's a little hard to navigate, but with a little bit of patience, you can get to where you need to be. You just need that little bit of patience. So Ben, on behalf of 75,000 solopreneurs, I thank you. This has just been excellent. I'm assuming people can reach out to you by email if they need to. I've provided your email in the chat a few times for any further questions or follow-up. And for the people on video, they too can reach out to you. There's your contact information on the last slide. So you're quite okay to receive emails, right?
Yes, please do reach out to me. Obviously, we had a lot of folks on the call here today. So if all 75 reach out, expect a slight delay. But yes, please feel free to reach out via email to myself directly. You can connect on LinkedIn as well. And also you can reach out to our team through the platform or at the address hello@hellopocket.io. And I'll drop that in the chat as well, Roger. Wonderful.
Well, thank you all. So now it's time to get on with the rest of our Tuesday evening. I hope to see some of you next Tuesday for our next speaker. In the meantime, Ben, this has been wonderful. Look forward to seeing you again soon. And for everyone else, thank you for the time and the trust you have shown by being here tonight. And EIN looks forward to continuing to provide you with really high quality free education. Good night, all.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Good
Bye.
night.
Thank you, Roger and Ben. Bye.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Ben.